30% of nonprofits, so about 450,000 nonprofits, are not going to survive 10 years. Small nonprofit is not a large nonprofit which is miniaturized.
That is an absolutely true point.
And if we can just save 1/3 of these small nonprofits, that is going to be more than the number of total large nonprofits in the United States.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Sanjay Bindra.
Thank you, Dave, for having me. I'm really excited about the conversation today.
Me too. You and I have been going back and forth for a couple of weeks now, and I don't remember how we first got on each other's radar. I think I saw you featured in a case study, maybe. But you have been really deeply passionate about what's happening in recurring giving and sustainable giving, and you reached out, and I thought, oh, that's great. You know, this would be a good conversation to have about what's happening in the charitable sector, particularly for small, and we'll talk about it, especially charities without staff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But just the fact that you are so energetic and so thoughtful about this space already, I knew this was going to be a good conversation.
I'm excited to be here too and get your insights as well.
Good. Well, let's start with your background, because we're going to talk about the charity that you work with, GOSUMEC Foundation, and which just describe what it is. And then I want you to go into your background actually as a physician that led to your engagement with the foundation.
Right. So GOSUMEC is an acronym for our medical college, Gordon Das Sundar Das Medical College, which was the first medical college in India to be staffed entirely by Indian physicians. This was during the period of the British Raj, and it celebrates its 100 years this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, and GOSUMEC Foundation, both me and my wife started this. It actually just came out of a phone call. So on my wife's 50th birthday, and that was going to be our 25th wedding anniversary on June 4th, 2022, we made a phone call to our mentor. And we said, you know what, if it was not for the medical school, we both would never have met. And I'm so grateful to be with Archana. And I think sometimes she feels she is too. And so when we spoke to our mentor, she said that we said we want to do something for our medical school. We've done well in the United States and we want to give back. And then she suggested a project, and Archana asked me whether we could do that. And I said, yes, but it'll be like a one-time project. It was a significant amount. And I said, then what? It's done. And I like to think long-term. And I said, you know what, we need to start a nonprofit and bring people together and do something on a sustained basis. So essentially, that's how it came about. Just came out of a phone call. We both are physicians, no experience in this space, but one thing led to another, and here we are. Yeah.
Wow. We'll talk a little bit about your background as a physician, because we're not talking today because you're a career fundraiser or nonprofit leader. So just give us a little background.
Yeah, so I'm a cardiac electrophysiologist. So I'm a specialist in the heart for the rhythm problems of the heart. So what got me involved in this space is a bit of my background. So my family came as refugees after the partition of India to Bombay. And they were doing well across the border. And when they came in, they had those struggles. And they also had a lot of help from the community. And so they stood up, did well. And my father passed away at 13. And he had left enough resources behind for us in that short period of time. And my grandmother used to share stories about their good old days when they were like the chiefs of the village and how they lost it all and how it has all come together, and that you don't need to have much to give. So she used to make me go take some bananas or some bread to the homeless or some used clothes to the orphanage. So that kind of went on. There was never any major charity that we did. It was just routine activities at the place of worship and so forth. And then I entered medical school, and then I met my wife, and my father-in-law was a very impressive man. He was at UCLA, and he was the chairman of the Education Abroad program. So totally different background than me.
Wow.
And he shared about how giving is what makes a person. And Archana was very influential in that space as well. So I think the two of us had similar interests, and we used to donate a little bit to charities on an annual basis. But this transition into a philanthropist actually came from that phone call.
That's amazing. And I think about just even your heritage, right? As a 13-year-old losing your father, but but being modeled generosity in your own community, and then how that led to ultimately your wife and her how generosity was modeled by her parents, and how that then ultimately, fast forward many years, right? And you think about what it was look like to give back to your medical college. That is, I think that's a story that I'm so grateful to hear, because it is, I think we tend to think about, what's happening today in generosity and what are the tactics and strategies. But I think it goes back to the, 13-year-old Sanjay taking, supplies or what have you to the orphanage. Have you reflected on what that's meant in your life?
So essentially, what my grandmother wanted to influence, and my mother as well, is that you may have a lot, and then you may lose it all. And when you gain, and you don't need to have a whole lot to give. So I think that philosophy has stayed on.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean money. It can be guidance to someone, talking to someone nicely, taking care of your patients well. So I think that element of gratitude is essentially the driving force, if I may.
That's so great. Well, we're going to talk about specifically gratitude and what you're thinking about and working on with regards to recurring giving and a major give study that you're conducting this year. In fact, as we record this, I believe you're a couple of days right at the very beginning of this process. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but I just want to dive a little bit deeper. When you think about your own story and coming behind this organization's, this medical college. So just to be clear, the nonprofit did not exist before this phone call, right? And you...
That is correct. And we actually didn't even have an alumni group in the United States.
Okay.
There was no mechanism of collecting money or sending money before at all. So this was a de novo attempt. There was another foundation about 10 years ago, which closed down, which was started by alumni. So there was a historic, but nothing active.
Yeah.
And that was the journey to start from scratch. I think we started in January of 23. And
23. Okay. Yeah. And I think about you shared some stats with me around what's happening with regards to charities that are smaller or have no staff. Can you share some of those stats? Because I think that's a really powerful basis for our conversation.
I mean, I was shocked too, and I have shared this with some of my colleagues, and they can't believe it. So in the United States, there are about 1.8 million nonprofits, of which 1.5 million are 501c3s. So 92% of them. So almost all nonprofits are small.
And what's small? Like, how do you define small?
It's less than $1 million in revenue, and 70% of them have an annual revenue of less than 100,000.
Wow.
So 60% have an annual revenue of less than 50,000. And 80 to 86% have no staff, run by volunteers. And 85% of them service the local community. So these are nonprofits we had a friend of ours who was between jobs in the IT world, and he met me one day while we were on a lake walk, and he said, today I delivered some food to a senior lady who cannot go on to the grocery store. And he said, this was an eye-opening experience for me. I'm just volunteering for the charity for the first time. And this was my first, she was my first human contact for her for that week. And then she slowly opened up. Apart from the meal, is that she She was the victim of financial fraud, and she was all stressed up. And so my friend helped her and so forth. Similarly, we have nonprofits which cater to students after school care in the community. So typically these small nonprofits deal with about, say, 100 seniors or 100 students. They're small, but they're extremely important for the fabric of our community.
Yeah.
So I think that is the space I feel passionate about, and using what I've learned in medicine. And actually, philanthropy comes very easy. And I'll go over that too. As a physician, it's extremely simple. Everything is very intuitive. And on how to maintain that, the fabric for our community, I think that's important. If you look at the last 20 years, individual giving has nosedived. 20 years ago, 3 out of 4 Americans donated to charity. Today, those numbers are less than half, 45%. I think I saw your Giving USA report you had sent on how the numbers have increased, but in that report too, the number of individual givers has gone down.
Yeah.
And part of that, I feel there may be many reasons, but part of it maybe is a small nonprofit is not a large nonprofit, which is miniaturized. It's a different animal altogether. And I wanted to share some insights when appropriate. Yeah.
A small nonprofit is not a large nonprofit, just miniaturized. That is an absolutely true point. And, and one of the things that I talk about in my book on the rise of sustainable giving is of the 1.5 million nonprofits in the US today, my estimate is about 75%. So about 1.1 million nonprofits have historically been left behind when it comes to growing strong, resilient, recurring giving programs, because they have not been the couple different models that charities have historically used. Sponsorship, one-to-one sponsorship, or membership is the other model historically. But the reality is today, because of the subscription economy and transformations in generosity, recurring giving, I believe, is more accessible to more charities than at any other time in history.
Yeah, it's extremely important. If you look at another shocking statistic, 30% of nonprofits, so about 450,000 nonprofits, are not going to survive 10 years.
Wow. They don't make it past the 10-year mark.
Past the 10-year mark, often beyond the 5-year mark. And the total number of medium and large nonprofits is 120,000. So
1.5 million total nonprofits, and 120,000, you say, are the large ones.
Medium to large ones.
Medium to large.
Between 1 to 50 million and 50 million and up. So, and if we can just save 1/3 of these small nonprofits, that is going to be more than the number of total large nonprofits in the United States. And that's
absolutely. Absolutely. I love this conversation, and I love the alignment between certainly the passion for sustainable giving, but also for small charities with either few or in this case, no staff that really have historically been challenged to fundraise in this space.
And they've been left out of the conversation. I must thank you for bringing me on and listening to what a small nonprofit is. I've been very active in LinkedIn and learned a lot, actually, and a lot of insights have driven into the study and so forth.
Yeah.
The entire discussion there is about large nonprofits.
And that's good.
Yes. And I'm grateful that you brought the small nonprofit up front to talk about it and understand a little bit more.
Well, you're helping me practice what I preach, which is when I say there's 1.1 million of the 1.5 million nonprofits that have been left behind, but no longer are left behind. If your metrics hold up, let's say that 92% of the 1.5 million that is below $1 million, let's just assume that holds up across my divide of those that are giving have been left behind in sustainable giving. So if 1.1 million nonprofits need to hear this message, Sanjay, then a little bit more than 1 million of those nonprofits are going to be small nonprofits, and they need to have a solution to do that. So that's a perfect bridge. I want you to talk specifically about the GIVE study and what your hypothesis is for growing recurring giving for GOSUMEC, but then how you're thinking about that as far as applying those lessons to other small charities.
So GIVE essentially is our philosophy at GOSUMEC Foundation. We did well in our first year of recurring giving and established the first mini endowment for medical students in India at our alma mater. So we take sustainable giving to another spectrum. So I really love the title of your book, which is Rise of Sustainable Giving and not monthly giving, because sustainable giving is monthly, quarterly, annual, or even legacy giving. So the GIVE study came about. As a physician, I'm very analytical, and anecdotes strike a chord, but needs to be proven. And when we started the nonprofit, people said, you know what, this is going to be an unsuccessful venture. Passion alone is not going to drive it. And I totally get it. And based on our experience in the first year, I've gone about in a very scientific way. So studying literature. And the good thing of being a physician is that I understand human beings because I deal with them every day. And what I realized is that gratitude is the drive behind any form of giving. And so gratitude essentially is the basis of the GIVE study. And gratitude is not just good for the person whom you're grateful for, it's helpful to your own self. You know, it's helpful for your own health as well. There have been studies which have shown that grateful people live healthier lives. So when we are taking part in helping people, we are actually helping our own self. There's some statistic out there is that if I give you a dollar, I get $1.30 in return from the goodness that happened. So I joke that, you give a US dollar and you get a UK pound. So G stands for gratitude. So gratitude alone would not work when you're carrying out an activity, when you're bringing people together for any cause. You need to be able to show the impact of what you're doing. I'm grateful, I'm giving you this, but there needs to be a result at the end. And that is something, I can feel, but I need to see it as well. So this impact should not just be felt, but be measured too. So that's where the I comes from. We is when you're making an initiative like this, much like how I deal with a patient for the first time when they come and see me, is history taking and I'm listening. So you need to give a voice to the community that you're serving. It's also a value proposition, as you talk about in your book as well. And how do you go about doing that in this tech-enabled world is engagement. And that engagement could be virtual or it could be in person. They don't have to be galas in our experience. Small gatherings would just do fine. So that essentially is the basis of the GIVE study. That is what the GIVE study is about. This is a small nonprofit's individual experience, and which is being stratified into a study to see how you can build sustainable recurring systems. So we are looking at the growth of total recurring givers and how many of them are retained over a period of time. So you fill the well and then it should not leak. So the GIVE study is why does the GOSUMEC Foundation experience work is because of the 4S that I call about. So storytelling is extremely powerful. A video is 22 times more powerful than a written word. Image comes a little higher on the spectrum between 1 and 22. So we found in our experiences that what really bound the community together, remember, we didn't have a community. All that we had was a network of alumni we built, and we made it into a purpose. And storytelling, whether it was from the beneficiary who's being helped, the benefactor who's helping, or the team, essentially bound the people together. So storytelling became extremely important. Smart technology is key. And I want to make a strong statement that small nonprofits start off with Google Sheets or Excel. And if you stay there, you're destined to fail. And I think you talk about too on how smart technology is your co-worker. It is not an helper anymore. And so technology is the basis of GOSUMEC Foundation. And the message that needs to be communicated needs to be simple and science-based on how human beings interact and understand. And all that in a supportive community is essentially our formula for small nonprofits. Drive yourself in gratitude, have a community which essentially is a network with a purpose. And passion alone is not going to take you there. Have smart technology to help you, and then you don't need staff. And because essentially, to me, all our tools, which we have highlighted on our page as well, and I've shared, is like having 3 co-workers with me. And I'm a full-time physician. I'm at the peak of my career. So it's not like I've taken time away from work and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this simultaneously. And if it's possible for me and us and GOSUMEC Foundation, any small nonprofit with the right structure and approach with an intention could do that.
Yeah. Hey, so you've covered so much. I want to bring it back. So let's, for our listeners, because really what you're trying to do, and I really admire this, you're not just trying to create a sustainable system for GOSUMEC, and I love the work, I love your heart, I love your personal background there, but you're also trying to do a service to this entire sector of philanthropy, particularly for these 92% of charities that are small. They're not, I still love that. They're not just large charities miniaturized. And so the GIVE framework, just to reiterate for our listeners, that's gratitude, starts with gratitude, impact, the voice, and then the last one was engagement, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And voice essentially is also value. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. And you related that to my concept that I've talked about, a value proposition. And so I have 2 questions. What do you hope that this study does, not only for GOSUMEC, but for the foundation, for the sector? We'll start there.
So since I want to paraphrase, I have no financial interest in any of the partners that I'll talk about, and I have no conflict of interest. So
sure.
So we are, my wife and I are amongst the biggest donors to the foundation as well. So this is a work of passion. And as you shared the startling statistic, when I was reading through, I said that, okay, it's good. We are a small nonprofit. We are doing an extremely focused cause. We are doing well. We will continue to do well because this strategy is science-based. But why can't this be shared? And what if the portion of those 30% will close down? And many nonprofits, small nonprofits, don't optimally perform. So it's not just the ones who close down. The ones who are on, a lot of them would benefit. So I made the communication with GiveButter is our CRM, and we wouldn't be where we are without them. The entire, I call it not customer relationship management, I call it community management. It's like our backbone.
Yeah.
I reached out to them that this is what I'm planning to do. But as a full-time physician, I mean, data will come out. And I don't want to publish this in an academic journal where it'll be lost. Who's going to read it? I don't need it for my career. And I don't want the lag time of 6 to 18 months for a paper to come out. I would like it to come out into the public domain. And there should be no paywalls around it. There are no courses around it. This work, this entire philosophy, this entire science behind it, we will publish it as a playbook, and we will offer it without any paywalls or restrictions. So
that's great.
Essentially, that's the whole goal. If you ask me where we are going with this, is just to create a practical playbook for other small nonprofits to benefit from. And small is mighty.
Hear, hear. Talk about why building community and not just a donor list matters.
So at the individual level, the way human beings interact, and I use the analogy of a wedding party versus a stadium. Small nonprofits are a wedding party. So you have about, in a medium-sized wedding, you have about a couple of hundred people who show up. It's an intimate affair. You meet each other, you engage with each other. You know a lot of the people there, and there are some you get introduced to, and you network. And that's a small nonprofit, wherein people come together for a purpose and they engage with one another. On the other spectrum is the stadium. You go for a football game, 40,000 people, a lot of glamour, glitz, structure, a lot of loud voices, but you don't know anybody. So small nonprofits work in the community, servicing community causes, and they need to have a network right down there. I know the interest in galas is going away, but I think for small nonprofits, engagement is key. And it's not throwing in more emails, being louder, multiple calls to action, being urgent, very deliberate communication. And as we also shared what our communication cadence is, and we've compared our communication cadence with what is recommended by experts. And we are light on communication, what I call it a low lift, high trust system. And we send half to 1/4 of the messages. But each of the message is intentional and is using a behavioral principle. See, the way human beings make decisions is in the giving space, there are only two metrics I think are important. One is your emotional cortex, your emotional areas of the brain. So there is a cause which appeals. You connect with it. You want to help. And what makes you execute it is actually your cerebral cortex, your analytical part. So what I say is that emotions remove the checkbook, those who remember what a checkbook is. And your logic part of the brain is what signs the check. It's not the other way around. I don't think about, I'll be going and doing this much to this nonprofit, let me find out. And okay, this is a good cause. This connects with me. It's not that way. This is the order. Like you need to be connected in some way. It could be for any reason whatsoever, either your own experience or something which is you're passionate about because you know somebody who has gone through it, whatever the cause is. So our communication also uses the same two principles. So we want to connect with our community's emotional area, and we want to communicate with our community's cortex. So what do I mean by that? So storytelling is an emotive area of the brain when is connected with. We are not sharing facts there. We are sharing stories which make you feel something. So that is what we call the first Friendly Friday. So we send out an email about either a story of the beneficiary, benefactor, or team members, or some loose metric which is not concrete. And then the mid-monthly pulse, physician, cardiologist, all my analogies are towards the heart.
Pulse, yeah. I see. I'm picking up on that.
Yeah. So the pulse is a physician measures the pulse to get some objective data. Similarly, the mid-monthly, we send metrics. So these are something you can understand. There are numbers behind it. How many students you supported? What are the funds that you collected? So all that we are trying to do is showing radical transparency, which is helping you in the currency called trust.
Okay, so let me pause you for a second just so we can keep track. So you talked about having a low lift, high trust kind of email strategy. You talked about how this First Friday, is that what it's called?
Yeah, first Friday of the month. Yeah,
First Friday kind of storytelling.
Yeah,
heart, and then this kind of mid-month pulse where you're kind of some metrics, a little bit more of the head. By the way, just as an aside, one of the things that I've gone really deep down the rabbit hole of, people talk about storytelling, and that is absolutely true, that is an emotional hook. But I think oftentimes we think of stories in this kind of disembodied sense, like, let me tell you a story of somebody over there. And one of the things I always coach my clients is think about the donor putting themselves into the story. Like, this is not, let me tell you a story about something that's over there, although we do that. But also, how can I see myself as a part of this story? And you talk about community and bringing people together, whether it's a gala or a small, living room event. I think that's another piece that I think is just so important in terms of people being able to see themselves in the story. We're not in a stadium, to use your earlier metaphor. We're not, shouting at people from a stage. It's like, no, we're side by side with them, sharing stories.
Yeah, and what is most important, what we found is that this is how the brain also reacts. So when we are sharing stories, a lot of nonprofits, what they call, they bring just the challenge in front, show the deficiency. So very early on, actually, there was a physician, Hasmukh Joshi, who's my mentor in this space and who himself was a beneficiary of the kindness of others when he was at medical school. He said, you know what, Sanjay, what you're doing is great, but I have one condition. I said, what? The help that you provide, you are not superior to the person whom you're helping, and neither is that person inferior just because you're helping. And the process of giving has to respect the dignity of the person. So if you take a look on what he's trying to tell you, is he's trying to tell you, make your storytelling ethical. And what the West talks about, the psychology literature talks about, is this. He was using some Eastern principles. It talks about is that you show the challenge, you show the resilience, and that is what human beings feel connected to. Of course, I need to understand what the situation is, but I need to see the other end of the picture as well. So that is why we partnered actually with Memory Fox, because one of the issues came up is consent, because you're taking stories of students and they are beneficiaries, and there is a power imbalance there. And their platform allowed us to get consents in an easy manner without me calling the students again and again and sending them WhatsApp messages. So I think ethical storytelling is important, wherein you keep the respect of the recipient and you honor that, and that really connects very well emotionally with the benefactors. Yeah.
Well, and your comment about Memory Fox, by the way, we just recorded an episode with Natalie Monroe at Memory Fox, and I'm a big fan of the platform. Just so people understand kind of visually what we're talking about, is it's essentially a platform that allows people to create videos, testimonial videos, whether it's a donor talking about why they give to a charity, or to your point, it's a beneficiary or somebody in the program telling their own story. So it's this storytelling that you and I were just talking about, but in that same authentic, see yourself in the story sort of a way. And I think that's important because, and just thinking about small charities, I'm curious. It seems to me that sometimes storytelling can slide into, well, we need to make a documentary film and like have something be really shiny and perfect, high production quality and everything. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That can be a wonderful thing, but stories are also things where you and I are, looking at each other in the eyes, and I can see, yep, if you got your phone right, it's just can be just so raw and authentic. And I honestly will coach clients, especially ones that do tend towards very slick production, is, hey, we just want to. The quote that I heard, Sanjay, from a creative many years ago that I've always held up, I've always appreciated, is this idea that our job is not to over dramatize or to under dramatize or to sort of shape the story. Our job is to hold up a mirror. And I think when you use a platform like Memory Fox and you do these kind of videos, that enables people to really just hold up a mirror to what's really happening, what the need is, and also, like you said, the dignity and the resilience of the people who are beneficiaries.
And also the benefactors as well. I think their stories is also very important, why they're involved in the first place. And these micro events that we've had, become fertile ground to get stories.
Are you looking to capitalize on what's been happening with sustainable recurring giving? Join me for the Sustainable Giving Workshop happening this year from September 10th through the 12th in beautiful Tacoma, Washington. This exciting 2.5-day opportunity will be part summit, part workshop, part retreat, and all experience that you can use to start growing your thriving sustainable giving program. Set in the creative heart of Tacoma, just south of Seattle, this intimate workshop will blend insight-rich instructions with hands-on coaching and peer connection. We'll creatively explore and strategically plan to grow strategic giving for your organization, all in a setting designed to inspire. You'll leave with a customized, clear plan to grow sustainable giving at your organization, practical frameworks and fresh insight, and new connections with like-minded leaders, as well as a renewed sense of vision and energy for your work. I'm designing this experience to be personal, practical, and powerful. Space is limited, so I recommend reserving your spot as soon as possible. All you need to do is go online, read a little bit more, and register at sustainablegiving.org. Hope to see you there. Talk about the micro events, because you kind of mentioned in passing, not everybody can do a gala. Some small local charities, they absolutely should do a gala, but talk about these micro events, because I think that's really important to comment on.
So there are two types of events we hold. One is the virtual Zoom meetings. We'll connect the donors with the scholars, or we'll have a donor meeting wherein we will just connect over Zoom. And the other is these events that we'll host. We started off an event in Fremont at our home. About 25 people came, and we've gone all across the country. And typically we'll be between 20 to 50 people. And we will meet, if it's a small, we meet at somebody's home. Otherwise, it's a side room of a restaurant. We have a screen wherein we can share on what we are doing, and then we connect with each other. And these are events with a purpose. I kind of look at it like the Priya Parker. I'm not if you're familiar with.
I love the art of gathering.
Art of gathering, and essentially it's just that, and it just binds the whole community together. Because here you bring like 30, 40 people together who never met each other. They just have some loose connection of, say, 30 years ago they went to this medical school. They've not had much contact, and now you bind them together. And here now you have an intentional community. You're connecting with a purpose, and that has really helped us. And then during those events, we move the phone around and ask people to share why they are there and what motivates them to give if they are givers. And it's actually been a very rewarding journey for myself, and that's what keeps me going. It's emotionally very rewarding.
Oh my goodness. Well, and it's you just illustrated a very powerful way of getting donors to see themselves in the story, is literally asking them to share their story, and don't underestimate the power of a living room. I think that's the other lesson here, is that this is not a stadium. And I'm just going to come back to that metaphor. This is not, we're trying to get as many human beings in a cold environment as possible, but how do we create community, and how do we gather people? And so even just the fact that not all of the events, like you said, sometimes it's in a restaurant or whatever, but I do think there's nothing like the power of a living room. I'm actually working with a charity right now, and we're organizing a series of living room moments this summer. And again, the goal is not, well, if we had 10,000 people, then we could probably get 0.001% of them, and that is a model that can work, but it's a completely different model. And I just think charities cannot underestimate that power of a small group of people who are willing to come around a cause and to share why it's important to them, or why this topic is even important to them, and what that does to move hearts and minds.
Yeah, even 6 people is enough. Yeah, I mean, it's really powerful. And for a small nonprofit, a typical small nonprofit, according to data, is 30 to 300 donors. So it's a small group.
Yeah.
And if you're able to bring 20, 30 people together a couple of times a year, you already have something going for you.
Significant.
Yeah.
There's one charity that I'm working with right now that when we started, they were at 8 donors, 8 recurring donors. And today we just did looked at the metrics. They're at 12, and we're just getting started. And so on one hand, they said, well, you did this event and we had 2 donors come out of it. Like, is that okay? I'm like, you just grew your program 25%. From 8 to 10 is a 25% growth rate, and you start to then think about what that means for those individual donors, but also candidly a new recurring donor. I mean, if a new donor steps in at even $40 a month, Sanjay, that's a $1,600 to $2,000 donor over the next 5 years. And so for this charity, I'm encouraging them to say, hey, let's not, don't compare yourself to Charity Water or, whoever, because really you need to compare yourself to yourself and where you're at and how do you create those kind of, in this case, living room moments.
Says know where you are. You start there.
Yep. You can't get to where you want to go until you know where you stand today. Absolutely. This is great. Okay. So I've got a couple other questions for you. There's just so much that I wanted to dig in today. So what's one belief about fundraising or philanthropy that you wish more people would question?
More people would question why they should be involved or not be involved.
I was thinking more just that more people involved with philanthropy would question.
So I think for our, I'll take it on the health perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So as I shared a little bit about gratitude and the research around gratitude, and there's something else. So Martin Seligman, he's the world authority in positive psychology.
Okay.
So you go to a nice restaurant, you have a great meal, you get a high, it goes away. If you are grateful for any cause, in this case, philanthropy is an expression of your gratitude, and you share that, the high stays for 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
He studied this.
He has studied this.
Wow.
So what his study was, you write a letter to someone whom you are grateful for, and then you go and deliver that letter. And this is on your personal impact, not to the person whom you shared, and you feel good about it. So I think when we are acting in acts of kindness, the biggest beneficiary is the giver. Now let me take this a step further. So since I'm representing, self-representing small nonprofits, so small nonprofits are the fabric of the community. And we've explained that you may be helping some animal shelter, you may be helping students, you may be helping seniors. So what exactly are you doing with that? Okay, because you're not changing the world. Of course, you're changing someone's world. But what you're doing is that you're involved in what we call a pro-social behavior. Means that you're going outside your own self and you're helping somebody. So Dr. Dilip Jeste, who's become my mentor now, he is the world expert on wisdom. And he was at UC San Diego, and he has a San Diego wisdom scale, also goes by his name. These tendencies of helping and empathy, these essentially make us wiser. But what does that mean? If you've been following what the Surgeon General has talked about, the US is in a pandemic of loneliness. And loneliness is loss of social connection. 30% of all Americans are lonely. So 1 in 3 people are lonely. This is a crazy statistic. And what does that mean? Loneliness is like smoking 16 cigarettes a day. It's got terrible health consequences. I'm not just talking about the emotional burden. I'm talking of physical health, your cardiovascular health. So loneliness equates to you dying early too. If you put it all together, what are you exactly doing with philanthropy? You're helping somebody? No, you're helping your own self. You're helping society be less negatively affected, helping society reap the benefits of engagement, making less noise. It's actually a prescription for better health. So if you look at it that way, I think we all need to be involved, and we need to go back to the 20 years ago wherein we climbed from 45% back to 75%.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason people are getting maybe dissuaded is the large nonprofit model working in the communities, wherein urgent appeals, making everything sound like a crisis, being heavy on communication. While what we need to do is have intentional acts of what connect each one of us, as you talk about your patio parties or living room parties. So I think that is the answer to a lot of social issues, and also helps society. And in the end, the biggest beneficiary is the person who's giving.
Generosity is a prescription for better health. I think that's going to be a title of a future WAVE report that I'll cite you in.
And the GIVE study is the prescription for small nonprofits.
Oh, I see okay. I love that you have kept the health as somebody who appreciates a good storyline. We have kept the health tone in today's conversation. And by the way, I am so grateful for the work you do in candidly saving lives in many different ways.
And I think being a physician has actually helped me in this journey. It's been a very easy journey for me. And why do I say that? So as a physician, the key aspect is to communicate with the patient, right? And communication, as Bernard Shaw said, it's an illusion, it has taken place. So communication, majority of the communication is actually listening. So when we are in a room with a patient, it's history taking. We are essentially listening to the patient. And that is what I mean by communication. And what do we do? Yesterday, I had a patient in the office, and I said, can I ask you a question? I said, and this is a patient I've been seeing for a few, I think this was a fourth or fifth visit with me, so we know each other. This is not the first visit. I said, what is the basis of our relationship? He said, hey, doc, it's easy. It's trust. So trust is essentially the element. When somebody comes to a physician and is even going through procedures, offering themselves to be taken care of, and trust is driving that. Imagine when you're talking of finite resources like money, trust element, if you're able to keep it transparent and trustful, the nonprofit would continue to do well. So the first visit is like getting the first donor, what you call acquisition in your nonprofit world. And next comes you diagnose. So diagnosis is often what are the challenges. So what are the difficulties, and you try to navigate those. And then you come with a treatment plan. And treatment plan you create with the patient, which is patient-centered. So, and you walk the journey with the patient. And that essentially is conversion.
Yeah.
And then you see the patient in follow-up. And what did my patient tell me? The reason he comes there is trust. That's the partnership. And trust is what is going to keep the donor in your ecosystem, what you call retention. And what, in terms of sustainable giving, our treasurer was asking me, why did I go in that direction? Why not just take the urgent and solve that? And take multiple causes, so you do X here, you do Y there, and all urgent burning issues, and you take care of them. I said the training as a cardiologist has really helped. So as a cardiologist, I take care of urgencies and emergencies. And at the same time, I'm thinking long-term. The long-term outcome is what matters. So I may take care of an emergency and then go to the clinic and make a decision which will impact somebody 10 years from now. So that's the same approach I brought to nonprofit world, is you take care of the issue of giving scholarships, but you need to have it in a sustained fashion for it to be meaningful the way I define it. And the other thing is, as an electrophysiologist, I deal with rhythm disturbances. So anecdotes don't matter there. I need to study it, so it needs to be measured. And there is a structure in the procedure room. I work for long hours in there, and you're persistent. You operate within systems. And that is essentially the framework I brought to GOSUMEC Foundation too. And I firmly believe that if you take care of the top, the bottom will take care of itself. So if you put a good structure in place, have a good tech system, and it's not going to burn your bank at all, and I've shared with you, and it's there on the Give Study page, we raised a little over $700,000 last year. Mm-hmm. Our total annual expenses are less than $10,000. And when we started, all the tech tools that I have shared, we had the free version. And then we've graduated. So tech is not a burden to implement at all. Yeah. So
it's a lesson. It's a lesson that, it just does not have to be resource intensive to start. And I also love the fact that you've ported and kind of leveraged this mindset and this expertise that you've developed in another sector of society to leading in nonprofits. And I'm a huge believer. I've written multiple times about cultivating what I call an outside mindset. And that is bringing other ways of thinking, other expertise that's completely outside of our domain to apply to what we're doing today. And so, Sanjay, I'm grateful for you personally that you've brought that, yes, to GOSUMEC, but also your passion for saying, like, why wouldn't we do this in I'll call it clinical way, so that we can learn, and not just learn for ourselves, but share that with others. And so this has been a fun conversation.
No, wonderful. The other thing I talk about is a tree. Okay. So small nonprofit, where should the small nonprofit focus on? The roots. They are not visible. They are extremely important. You nurture them. So what does that mean? You pick up a cause, be focused on it, know what your resource, and follow I think your 7 steps or your 6 shifts are totally relevant. If I may take a moment and share your 6 innovations, what you describe, or the change. If you boil it down to one, all of that is engagement. You talk about bringing the people together. They should have a value. They need to sustain. They need to later on advocate. Your 6 principles which you put together. What is that? It's actually behavioral and relational. And what are your 7 steps? They are structural. And very high you put tech, and then you talk about growth and implementing later. It's your 4th.
Get your foundation in place. Get your program design, your technology, your team. As you have one.
Right. So tree needs branches to move forward. When GOSUMEC Foundation reaches that stage, I'm going to place a call to you and help us scale, because that's the time when you need to invest resources and grow. So what is going to make us successful today is not going to allow us scale. So Give Study is the prescription for small nonprofits, resource limited. So I'm not against overhead at all, but imagine my task when I didn't have a community. I had to bring people in to give. And what was the message? I'll be both Archana and I, we will be one of the biggest donors. We will take care of all the overhead. So all your money is going to the cause. And it's going to be super transparent. And please trust us. And that was easy for people to do. Now, as a nonprofit scales, I think there's an overhead myth too. Just because an overhead of a large nonprofit is 10% and the other is 30% doesn't make the 10% better. Because the 30% it's how you utilize your resources. So when you don't have resources, how do you work? Give Study shows that. When you need to grow, you need to invest in resources. And then I think Dave Raleigh tells you how to do that.
Oh, well, thank you. No, and I'm just glad to be a part of this journey. I think putting the book together and getting that out of the world was a massive effort, but it really was just the beginning and that's the reason for this podcast, candidly. And you and I would not have known each other if I hadn't spent, 3 years compiling 20 years of fundraising into a book. But the thing that excites me is the fact that, now folks like you and I are connected and we can mutually learn and grow together. And so I love the fact that you're investing in this. I love the fact that you've applied who you are and your unique talents, but also the context that's shaped you all the way back to 13-year-old Sanjay. And all those things that have led to the life of generosity that you and your wife lead, and the life of generosity that you're inspiring in others. That's really incredible.
Well, thank you. So in the end, what is a nonprofit? Nonprofit is a heart. So for the heart to work, you need a rhythm. So, and I understand that well because I'm a rhythm doctor.
You understand that better than about everybody in the world.
So what is the rhythm of a nonprofit? Rhythm of a nonprofit is your tech. For us, it was Give Butter. So you have the rhythm, then the heart contracts. So that's the pump. So what is the pump? It is gratitude. Gratitude is the pump which is going to keep your nonprofit going. But what needs to circulate? Blood. So what is blood? Trust is the blood which needs to perfuse each and every donor, recipient, and your community. So essentially, if you take the heart metaphor, you have a formula for success of a nonprofit. Have a good structure, stand on a good structure, and it's not spreadsheets. You're going to save enormous amount of time. It's just mind-boggling how efficient these tools are. And to do all these things together, not just maintaining your database, not just the donors having a good experience, managing your pledges in our case, since our donors are doing it on an annual basis, managing events, all of that has been done single-handedly. So it's so easy to do. Just focus in the right way. And just be grateful to be part of this journey. You're not helping anybody else apart from your own self. And so essentially, gratitude, when you're expressing, you're actually helping yourself. And then create a system which is trustworthy. Be extremely transparent, and trust is going to flow. And that's going to keep your nonprofit going.
Oh, so good. Okay, last question. What's one encouragement you'd offer to a nonprofit leader trying to build something sustainable without a big team?
Give study is our answer. That's the prescription.
That's great.
Yeah. So essentially, let me put this into perspective too. What is the Give study trying to show? It is going to show above sector conversion, growth, retention, share, and email engagement. And why am I so confident? Because I have a finger on the pulse in the community. We have put a lot of energy in the Give arena. And these are, if you look at the metrics that I have put in terms of what our goals are, they are 2 times what the large nonprofits success rate is. So small nonprofit, there is no data, and they underperform large nonprofits. So you're talking about 2 to 8% of recurring givers, a small portion of them. 20% of the donors stay with you after a year. 45 stay with you if you don't take the first year. You're good if 60 to 80% you're able to retain. Your email engagement rates are low because we are sending too many of those too often, and too many calls to action, too many urgent messages. We are not being authentic enough. So less is more. Simple works. And simple is not only better, but that may be the answer to creating a system for a newcomer in the nonprofit space. So passion alone is not going to take you there. Passion will get you started, but nowhere in the Give acronym or 4S, we put passion, because passion is a given. Otherwise, you would not be spending your time and resources. Yeah. So if you say that I'm passionate and my nonprofit will succeed, the statistics are against you. 30% are going to fail in 10 years. And so you have to be intentional. And how do you avoid that? Sustainable giving is the way to do that. And it is not difficult. Because what is sustainable giving? If you have to put it in one word, it is trust giving. See, I can create, and that's why we're only looking at recurring giving. We are not looking at one-time givers, because one time I can create a case of urgency and sympathy, pity, and draw some dollars out of your wallet. But for you to come back again, that same message ain't going to work. So trust is where it is. I think we should call it trust giving, not sustainable giving.
Sign me up. Sign me up. That is so powerful. Well, thank you, Dr. Sanjay. And if people want to learn more or follow along with the Give Study, I know I'm going to be following along. Where can they go? Where would you send them?
So our website is gosumec.org/give study. We've already put all the information out. And the paper that I shared with you is also there in the public domain. And everything that we will produce will be in the public domain, and there won't be any paywall. And that's our gift to the 92%.
Well, thank you, Sanjay. And we will include a show link to it in the show notes. And again, just thank you for all your investment in the sector, but it also in living a life of generosity. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all the work that you are doing, and keep up the good work. And so that, and I would like to partner in some way wherein I think it's a continuum. Your book is the structure, and ours is relational on what it means at the ground level. More small nonprofits succeed, more will come to benefit from the scale, and society is going to benefit. And I hope we have another offline conversation on this issue too. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, and appreciate you, and looking forward to hearing how people respond to this.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sustainable Giving Podcast. I hope you found the information helpful and that you're able to walk away with some powerful tools that you can use to start building a steady stream of recurring revenue for your organization. For more information about the topic and to take the Sustainable Giving self-assessment, visit us online at sustainablegiving.org. While you're there, you can pick up your copy of The Rise of Sustainable Giving, your guide to growing recurring giving. And hey, would you do me a favor? If a person comes to mind that you think would benefit from this episode, would you mind sharing this episode with them? Just that little act could be the difference that they need to start growing sustainable giving for their own organization. And there's one other thing that you can do that would be a huge blessing to me. I've timed it, and it takes just 16 seconds. Would you consider rating the show? Just head to the show page on the app of your choice, and if you've enjoyed this show, hit the 5-star review. Bonus, if you want to leave a comment, I would love to hear what you think. Special thanks to the entire team at Imago Productions for bringing this show to life. Abigail, Christine, Grace, Kirsten, and Tom. This would not be possible without you. Until next time, thank you for joining us, and keep inspiring generosity.